right. Welcome to the 12-week business review. Thank you for joining me. And we're going to try to get through this pretty quick. I don't know how long it'll take because I haven't done this one yet. We attempted to do it before my computer froze up and died on me. And so we are doing take number 2. So originally I was thinking, oh, well, it's the end of the quarter, so we should review where we're at with our goals to the end of the year, and we should make sure that we're on track and tweak, because that's how it was explained to me, the 12-week year. And I realized that I've been looking at it all wrong. Okay, so looking at it on an annual basis, chunking it down in the quarters, that's not how it was intended to be utilized and not how it was intended to function. So today, the challenge is we're going to look at it and I'm going to challenge you to a new way of thinking. As always, if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself, raise your little Zoom hand. You can just interrupt me. You can throw it in the chat box. Or if you're watching this on replay, feel free to reach out to me directly or throw it in the comment section, and we usually try to watch those. So our learning objectives today. Let's see. There we go. We're going to talk about what the 12-week year is. We are going to cover the 3 principles and 5 disciplines that make up the 12-week year. Talk about the importance of creating a vision, setting up your 12-week goals, tackling your weekly tactics, and what it means to be committed. We're then going to take on process control, scorekeeping, and how to manage our calendars with performance time. And then also what you're going to do at the end of the 12 weeks. So what happens on week 13? Dun, dun, dun. So the 12-week year, we're going to stop thinking at our goals in yearly goals. Okay. When we look at and we define goals annually, we tend to always feel like there's more time. And what usually ends up happening is we start out strong and then we kind of fade in the middle, only to realize that as we near the end that we're behind, right? As we get close to the end of the year, we're behind, and we push hard to work to get caught up in those last few months. I know I'm guilty of that. I'm sure a lot of other people are as well. So it's kind of like that Black Friday mentality, right? The Friday after Thanksgiving is called Black Friday for retail stores. And that's because they're okay at running at a loss throughout the year, right? Just kind of getting by for the rest of the year because they know that they're going to make up that lost revenue at the end of the year. But then the question is, right, when it comes to your income, do you want all your income in December, or do you have bills and such that need to be paid all year, right? So let's stop thinking of the year as 12 months and let's start thinking of it only being 12 weeks. And what that's going to do is thinking of it in a 12-week time period has proven to drive execution and drive results. So again, we're not going to take like an annual goal and chunk it down into quarters. We're no longer going to focus on the end of the year. We're just going to look at where we need to be in the next 12 weeks. Okay. Part of that is there are 3 principles that the 12-week year is guided by. The first is accountability or ownership. It's a willingness to own your actions as results, regardless of your circumstances, right? So accountability is action. So accountability or ownership is a willingness to own your actions, regardless of your circumstances. We're no longer looking at excuses. Accountability is actions. Commitment is the next principle. You're making a contract with yourself. The commitment is a promise, right? So a commitment is a promise where accountability is projected in the future, or ownership of your future results. So making a commitment is going to result in integrity, self-esteem, and success. So your commitment is a promise to yourself. Greatness in the moment is the third principle in the 12-week year. And this is the understanding that you become great the instant that you choose to do the things that are going to bring you results. Okay, results are just the confirmation of greatness. Greatness is the discipline. And when you look at it in the sense of, like, if we look at a famous sports person, okay, let's look at, we'll take Michael Phelps, right? Famous swimmer. He wasn't great when he won his like umpteenth gold medal, right? That was just the confirmation of greatness. He became great the second he said he's going to put in the time, energy, and effort to do what needs to be done to win that gold medal. So the long hours in the swimming pool, the no result, right? Like not having any results at the beginning, making sure you're eating enough food, making sure you're getting enough sleep, doing those things is what's going to cause you to be great. So that's when you become great, is when you start doing those things. Okay, the 5 disciplines of the 12-week year. So in addition to those 3 principles, there are 5 disciplines. The first one is vision, or that's the fuel that's going to keep you going, right? Your vision is going to drive your execution, and it's going to drive you to push on when you don't feel like it. Okay, this also is like your why. Your vision and your why are very similar to each other. The second discipline is planning. And we're going to be planning with a less is more mentality. That's going to make us more focused on our plan, because the more focused you are, the greater your chances of success. Okay, if we plan and we have 20 things that we have to do on our list of to-dos, then our chance of success dwindles. But if we look at that list of 20 things and we narrow it down to the top 5 things that's really going to drive us forward, we have a greater chance of success. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. The next thing is going to be process control, and that's what drives success in your tactics, right? It's the tools and events that align your daily actions with your goals. So process control ensures that you execute your tactics effectively. Yeah, right. This is my favorite thing, like systems and processes, that's process control. Okay. The next discipline is going to be scorekeeping, right? We're not going to be afraid of scorekeeping. It's the measurement that ensures success, right? So it's our anchor to reality. Keeping score provides us with the feedback that we need in order to stay on track. And then the last discipline is going to be time use. We're going to be intentional with our time so that we can be in control of our results. So those are our 5 disciplines. So we're going to dig more into that here in a minute, but we're going to start with creating vision. Okay, a great life starts with a great vision. And again, that vision is in line with your why, or it could be considered your why. It's what's going to keep you pushing forward when you have a bad day or a bad moment or a bad month, right? When you look at it and you review that vision, it should invoke an emotional response. It shouldn't just be like, my vision shouldn't just be like, oh, I want to make $100,000. That's not vision. Okay, that is, when we look at our vision, it should be, oh my gosh, in 5 years, I want to have enough income that I've created passive income coming in to the place that I only work because I want to, not because I have to. And I get to spend my time traveling around the United States, riding horses in national parks and visiting places and getting to see the backcountry on horseback, right? That for me might be like, oh my gosh, that makes me feel emotional. That's what I want to be doing. That sounds way more exciting to me than sitting at a desk. So what's that vision look like? So that's kind of your vision. It should invoke an emotional response. Okay, so to start with that, you want to think about and imagine where you find yourself in 10 years or 15 years, or maybe even further in the future. What does your future look like? When you close your eyes and you vision what life looks like in 15 years, what do you want that to look like? Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Right? You can let your imagination soar as well, right? There's nothing too impractical or audacious to consider. You can dream about things that truly excite you. And it could be more about personal aspirations than business, or it could be a balance of both. Okay. For me, it's more of like a vision of personal. When I look into my far future, it's more of like that personal aspirations, and business is the vessel to get me there. And right now, when you start creating your vision, you're not going to be worried so much about the how you're going to get there. We're just focused on the what if. What if you could make that happen? So step one in creating your vision. So when we wrap up today, time block yourself some time to work on your vision and really just spend some time in reflection and just imagining what life looks like for you 10 or 15 years in the future. Okay. What might help you do that is step one might be to make 3 lists. Okay. What would you like to have in life? Both material and non-material. What would you like to be doing in life? And what would you like to be in life? Okay. And don't hold back. Sky's the limit. Just make your list and just put that vision together of what it looks like in about 10 to 15 years. Step two is you're going to take what's on those lists. You're going to add anything else that comes to mind, and you're going to write out a picture of what your future looks like. Okay, you're going to create a life vision that inspires you and fulfills your purpose. And again, that goal with this first 2 steps is to be thinking 15, 10, maybe even 20 years in the future. Okay, so take those lists. What do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you want to have 10, 15, 20 years from now? And then we're going to put that together into a statement that it should invoke emotion in you. It should inspire you, and it should fulfill what you believe your purpose is. Okay, step 3 is once you've created that long-term inspiring vision, you want to take down and craft your 3-year vision. And you're going to start with your personal vision. So you'll start with writing down what your age is going to be in 3 years. And then what do you want your personal life to be like in 3 years? You may want to consider things like relationships, family, health, your spiritual life, social, financial, intellectual, emotional, and lifestyle. Okay, so again, the things, yeah.
Sorry, can you go back to step 2 just for a quick second?
Yep. Step 2 is to put it all together. So you're going to write out a statement of what that future looks like 10, 15, or 20 years from now. Creating that life vision, something that's going to inspire you and fulfill you and fulfills your purpose.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. And then step 3 is we're going to take it from that 10, 15, 20 year span down to 3 years. In 3 years, where do we want to be with our personal vision? Okay. And things to consider again, relationships, family, health, spiritual, social, financial, intellectual, emotional, and lifestyle. Okay. Step 4 is you're going to craft your professional vision. That's for your career or your business. Okay. And ultimately, your career and business vision should align with that life or that personal vision and in an alignment with where we want to be in that 10, 15, or 20-year time span that we drew up. It should be in alignment with that, moving us in that direction. Okay. Things that you may want to consider when crafting your 3-year career or business vision might be, what difference will you make? How much time off do you want to have? What position or role do you want to be in? Will you be leading others? What does your team look like? What areas are you excelling in? Where are you going to feel the most fulfilled? What income will you have? Will you have multiple locations? What's your target market? Right? What's your value offer? How many clients will you have, or how many closings will you have? How is your service model? How will you market? So just some things to think about when crafting that career or business vision. And again, that career business vision should be in line with that life vision, taking us where we want to go. All right. Once you've created your 3-year vision, both personally and business and career, you want to share it with others. Okay. Find somebody to share it with. It could be when we find that when we share our vision, we become more committed to it. And often you feel more responsible to act. And if you're like, Amy, who do I share it with? Well, it might be like a spouse. You might share it with a spouse, a significant other. You might share it with your mom or your adult child, or you may have an accountability partner in the office or somewhere else. And that's who you're going to choose to share that with. But share it with someone. Let them know where you want to go. So that you can get behind it and feel that responsibility of actually fulfilling that. Step 2 in that, your action step 2, is to keep it top of mind. Okay, so you want to create like a vision board. It might be something different. It may just be like, you might just have like this vivid statement that invokes that emotion in you of where you're headed in the next 3 years. And that might be enough for you. And you might want to plaster that all over the place, like put it on your computer backdrop, put it in the car, put it by your bed in the morning when you get up, type it to your bathroom mirror so that you're seeing it when you're brushing your teeth, right? That way you're keeping it front of mind and you're remembering why you're getting up in the morning and what your plan is and where you're headed. Okay. You could create like a vision board, right? You could do like an old fashioned, like get out the poster board and magazines and cut things out and put it on there of what life looks like in 3 years, or even what life looks like in 20 years for you and where you're headed. Or you could do it digitally, right? You can go on Canva now and create like a piece of paper, like a poster, and then put clip art and different things on it. There's no wrong or right way. The goal here is that you want to keep it front of mind. So if we do that vision board, the old-fashioned one with magazines and clippings and stuff, take a picture of it. Save it to your phone desktop or your backdrop, right? Save it to your computer desktop. Print a copy of it, like put it around so that you can see it and that it keeps you focused and driving forward. Okay. In addition, each day you want to make sure that you take the opportunity to make progress on that vision. So the plan that we develop should be in alignment with our vision. So we'll talk about that a little bit more here in the future, but everything that we do should be moving us in that direction. So in that, we also want to be intentional. So at the end of each day, you're going to want to put a little item on your calendar to take a few moments to reflect on the progress that you've made towards your vision. Did you move closer to it? Did you fill your days with activities that weren't related? Right? If you did spend time on tasks that weren't related, it's a good time to set our course for the next day, because the next day you get another chance to be intentional with moving closer to your vision and making it become a reality. So some people have like journals, like thankfulness journals and stuff. You could always have like a journal, and each day at the end of the day, you reflect and think about, did what I do today move me towards my vision for my life? Or what do I need to do tomorrow to help stay focused on that? Okay, any question about creating vision? All right. So next is, once we've created that vision, because that vision is really going to be what drives us forward. And we're no longer thinking annually, right? We're just going to think about the next 12 weeks. So when we think of it that way, what happens is that each week becomes a month and each day becomes a week. Okay, so we've got to really stay focused on our actions and moving ourselves forward, because it's a compressed time period. Okay, so this means that we're, instead of focusing on the 10 things that we want to accomplish this year, we're going to narrow it down to just the top 2 to 3 goals that are going to help move us forward. And those goals should be in alignment with our vision. Okay, these 2 to 3 goals that we're going to focus on over the next 12 weeks should be the items that we want to improve right away. So our goals are the outcome that we want. Okay, and it's also important to remember that we can't control the outcomes, but we can control the actions. So we're going to dive more into actions in a minute, but for now, we're going to focus on the goals or that outcome that we're looking to achieve.
So can we say today is day 1 of the next 12 weeks?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the cool thing about the 12 weeks year is that you can start at any time. So today could be day 1, or you could be like, this week is planning week. Next week starts day 1 of the 12-week year. We're going to count this as week 0. You can do that as well. There's no wrong or right answer as to when. This doesn't have to start January 1st and run every 12 to 13 weeks. It doesn't have to be like, oh, the second quarter started on April, so we're already behind. No, we can start it now. Absolutely. So for goals to be effective, number 1, they need to be specific and measurable. We need to be able to quantify and qualify what success looks like. And the more specific, the better. Okay. In addition, you want each goal to be positive. So your initial goal may be like to obtain a fallout rate of less than 5%. Right. And that's negative because we're focusing on a fallout rate. So what we really want is the closing ratio. So instead, we would state it as a 95% of transactions under contract closing. Right? So we're going to take and focus on the positive versus the negative. So specific and measurable, positive. We're also going to ensure that each goal is realistic and that it's also going to be a challenge. Okay, so if you're currently closing, 1 transaction a month, having a 12-week goal of closing 4 transactions isn't really going to be a stretch. You're just going to continue on doing what you've been doing and you'll be fine. So we want it to be a little bit more of a stretch. So it may be something like, instead of 4 transactions, maybe like, man, I want to close 8 transactions over the next 12 weeks. Or maybe it's 6 transactions over the next 12 weeks. Something that's kind of cause you to have to push yourself forward and really work to obtain. But in addition, we don't want it to be unrealistic. So we wouldn't be like, well, I'm closing 1 transaction a month right now. So 12 weeks, that's 3 months. Okay, that's 3 transactions. Gosh, I'm going to close 20 transactions in the next 12 weeks. Okay, that might be a little more unrealistic. So we want to keep it a stretch goal, something that's going to push us forward, but not something that's going to feel so unrealistic we give up and quit. Okay, we don't want easy and we don't want impossible. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take accountability or take ownership of our goals. So if you're not willing to do what it's going to take to get there, then don't put it on the list in the first place. Okay. And then finally, your goals should be time bound and you should have a goal date at which you determine that you've won or lost. For the most part, when we're determining our 12-week goals, most of our goals are going to be at the end of the 12-week period. So if today is the first day of our 12-week, then we're going to look at our calendar for 12 weeks from now, and that's going to be our due date. That's going to be the day that we're going to establish whether we won or lost. Okay, no participation trophy, just won or lost. Any question about how to set effective goals? Specific and measurable, should be positive, should be a realistic stretch. It should include accountability, and it should be time bound. All right, once we have our goals, then we're going to establish our weekly tactics. So we're going to identify the weekly tactics. So those are going to be the action steps that need to be completed in order to achieve the goals. Okay, one of the best ways to do this when we're brainstorming and first deciding what our goals are going to be and figuring out weekly tactics is it might be to create what we call like a brain map. Okay, so in that little bubble right there, you see there's like a cloud in the middle. We used to do these for like book reports in junior high or elementary school, right? You like, oh, I want to write about this and that and the other, and then off that, we're going to, right? Brain map. So you're going to write down your goal in the middle, and then you're going to begin making bubbles around it with all the different types of things that might be needed to be done, or all the different approaches you could take to reach that goal. Okay, there's no wrong or right answers again at this point. We're going to spend some time narrowing it down. Okay, the goal with doing it this way with the bubbles and different things is it's going to lead to more creativity versus making a list. Okay, it's also going to take you out of that linear thinking and into a more creative mode. So you might come up with ideas that you may not have come up with otherwise. And we're not so worried about making them like full action items at this point, or even like complete sentences, just getting some ideas on paper. So if you're like, man, I want to close 6 deals over the next 12 weeks, you might be like, oh, well, my circle of influence might be one way to get there, or open houses, or a farm, or I was thinking about dabbling in social media, and I was thinking about, I should probably like get agent referrals, or maybe those business to business relationships. So then I've created all these bubbles, and then I'm going to go back and be like, oh, circle of influence, like, gosh, oh, well, I should probably like make phone calls, and I should probably send out like a monthly newsletter. And for a farm, gosh, I probably should be door knocking. And maybe I want to do some events. In fact, maybe events also work for circle of influence. I'm going to draw a line between those to connect those. And then, when I think about like business to business relationships, oh, I should talk with different businesses and interview them. I should post it on social media, right? So we can start brainstorming all of these different ideas of different ways that we could get to 6 transactions. Okay. And you may reach a point that you kind of feel like you're getting stuck and you think you might be done. So when you get there, give yourself another like 5 or 10 minutes just to like ponder and think about it, reread over the ideas that you have before you move on, because oftentimes kind of our most creative and powerful ideas will come to you after you get stuck. So it's okay to leave yourself some time just to continue processing and thinking and reading over what you've already written down, draw those lines between them, make the bubbles prettier. You may come up with some other ideas. Okay. And that's, you got like your main goal, and then you've got a bubble for like an idea, and then some sub ideas. Okay. Anybody have questions about that process? Brain mapping. Okay. Once we've brain mapped all of our ideas, we've kind of gotten stuck, we got past it, we're like, man, I'm totally out of ideas. These are all the ideas that I have in order to reach that goal over the next 6 weeks. Then what we're going to want to do is we want to narrow that down. Okay. We're going to just like highlight those key tactics, the ones that are going to be most impactful and have the biggest impact on helping you hit your goal. So those are going to become your weekly tactics or your weekly action steps. So, like in past trainings, I've always been like, oh, you should have 5 legs of Legion, and we're going to focus on, your leads or your circle of influence first. And then we're going to focus on like one other form of Legion and develop systems and processes around that. And then once we have that, we can add the next one, like we might dabble. So this is kind of that same idea. We're going to look at that bubble and be like, man, I've already kind of got some momentum with open houses. I've been hosting them. I think I'm going to stick with open houses. And here's my 4 tactics of things that I need to do with open houses to really drive results. And I may also do this other thing over here with my circle of influence, but we aren't going to do all 5 forms of Legion that might lead to those closings. We're really going to focus in on the top few tactics that's really going to push our business forward. Okay. So once we identify those key activities that need to be completed in order to achieve the goal by the end of the 12-week year, you want to write them down, and we're going to follow some rules. Okay, these are our weekly tactic rules. The first rule is that every activity should support the 12-week goal. Should move us closer to success on that 12-week goal. That's rule number 1 for the weekly tactic. Rule number 2 is it's going to be written starting with an action verb and written as a complete sentence. Okay, a verb is an action word. Okay. Each item should be able to be completed as written without a lot of extra pre-work. Okay, if there's pre-work that's needed, then those probably should be additional tactics. You're going to identify or specify a frequency and due date. Some things may be weekly items, others may be daily, and others may be like a one-time task. Okay, so we're going to write those things down. So it should support your 12-week goal. It should start with an action verb. It should be written as a complete sentence, and it should be able to be executed as written. So host an open house probably can't be executed as written. There's pre-work that needs to be done. Select an open house, develop marketing materials, right? Whatever that might be. Okay, so if my goal is to lose 10 pounds, my goal and my tactic might look something like this. Weigh 185 pounds by the end of my 12-week year. It's specific, it's measurable, it's positive, it's a realistic stretch, and it's time-bound. Okay, that's my goal. The tactics might be run 3 times per week for a minimum of 3 miles per run, weeks 2 through 12. Swim 2 times per week for a minimum of 30 minutes per swim, weeks 3 through 12. Find an exercise buddy that lives nearby, week 1. Right? One-time thing. Set exercise schedule with buddy that works for both of us. Should be completed week 1. Limit alcohol to Friday and Saturday nights. 2 drinks per night maximum, weeks 1 through 12. Eat 2 full servings of vegetable with dinner 5 times per week, weeks 1 through 12. Those would be my tactics to achieve the goal of losing 10 pounds over the next 12 weeks. And see, I didn't say lose 10 pounds. I say weigh 185 was my goal. And then my tactics are all things that need to be executed in order to reach that goal. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Okay, good. Fabulous. All right. Being committed. When we create our 12-week year goals and our weekly tactics, we need to be 100% committed to achieving those goals and accomplishing those weekly tactics. Your commitment is a conscious decision to take action and create the results. So when looking at goals on an annualized basis, the old way of looking at goals and committing to that goal for 12 months time frame, it can often make it challenging to keep the commitment. We're like, oh my gosh, I've got to work out 3 times a week for the next 52 weeks and run 3 miles, no less than 3 miles a day on those. Like, that feels overwhelming to me. But can I do it for the next 12 weeks? And then I can reevaluate. Did I enjoy running? Did I not enjoy running? Did it get me the results that I wanted? Can I tweak it and change it? Right? We're only making that commitment for 12 weeks. So if we're like, man, I'm going to host open houses. I'm going to do 1 open house per week. Here's going to be my system for it. I'm going to execute this. And at the end of 12 weeks, I get to reevaluate. I'm not committing to open houses for the next 52 weeks or the next 12 months. I'm only committing for 12 weeks. And then we're going to reassess and begin again. Okay. So it makes it a lot easier to commit. And we want to make sure that we are committed to achieving the goals and accomplishing those weekly tactics. When we make commitments, it's important to understand that every commitment also has a cost, right? So if I am committing to hosting 10 open houses during the next 12 weeks, it means that I'm going to be giving up my Saturday or Sunday, which may also include giving up time with friends or family. So we want to identify the cost up front of what each action or each tactic is going to entail so that we can make sure that we're willing to make that commitment. So for each commitment that you make in your 12-week goal and each weekly tactic, take some time to assess the cost and ensure that you're willing to pay the price for the success of that goal. Okay, otherwise we may need to reevaluate what those tactics or what that goal looks like to be something that we're willing to be 100% committed to. When we make commitments, there are a few obstacles that may prevent you from being able to hold true to your commitment. One thing that happens, and one thing that I hear all the time, is that life gets in the way and you're not able to meet that commitment. This all often leads to like disappointment in yourself, right? A feeling of like failure, and that's okay. It's important to not give up, but we want to get back up and keep going. Another pitfall that happens, we also want to try to by identifying what those things are, what we're giving up, what the cost is associated with those. We're kind of preempting, not letting life get in the way, right? Another pitfall that you might run into is that you're unwilling to confront the breakdown when you miss a commitment. Okay, so it's okay, we miss a commitment, we get up and keep going, but we need to take some time to review what happened and identify why you missed the commitment, right? Confront the breakdown and recommit on the promise to yourself. By being willing to confront missed commitments, it's going to cause you to grow in your ability to make and meet those commitments in the future. And then finally, the last pitfall that you may encounter is that you may make promises that you can't keep. Sometimes you say yes when you should have said no, right? You avoid the pain of saying no up front only to disappoint yourself and potentially others later on. So you need to put a high value on keeping your word and avoid making promises that you know you cannot or will not keep. It's okay to say no. Okay? And it's okay to say, I can't do that right now. Right? If you're afraid to say no, think of some creative ways around it where you're not really saying no, where you're saying, I can't do that right now, but I can do that in June, right? Or I can do that this week. I just can't do that right now. Okay? So it's okay to say no. We want to value and keep your word. If we say yes to something, we want to follow through. And the number one thing that we just talked about saying yes to is we're saying yes to ourselves and our vision and our goals. We've created goals. We've created weekly tactics. We said we're 100% committed to meeting this and fulfilling this and reaching our goal. And so if we say yes to somebody else and it gets in the way of completing those weekly tactics, then we have to make a decision who we're letting down. And oftentimes we choose to let ourselves down before we let other people down. So we want to make sure that when we say yes, it's something that we can follow through on and something that we can do. Okay. I know, especially when you have young kids, something that happens is you're like, you know, at the school pickup or whatever, and we're having conversations with other parents. We're like, oh, we wanted to do a play date to this. And you're like, oh, absolutely, I can do that. It's okay to say, hey, I've got to check my calendar and I'll get back to you. Okay. And that's whether it's other parents or other people in the office or, you know, people inviting you to happy hour or doing whatever. It's okay to say, let me check my calendar and get back to you. Okay. All right. Process control. So now that you've identified your 12-week goals, your top 2 to 3 things, you've developed the top tactics. It's going to be important to enact the elements of process control to help you execute at your best and overcome any obstacles that you may encounter along the way. So the first tool is going to be your weekly plan. Okay. At the beginning of each week, we're going to assess the week and create a plan that includes your commitments from your 12-week plan. You're creating your game plan for the next 7 days. Notice I didn't say you're creating your game plan for the next 84 days. No, you're just creating a game plan for the next 7 days. The weekly plan is not your to-do list. It's only going to reflect the most critical and strategic activities that need to take place this week to achieve your 12-week goals. Okay, an effective weekly plan has 3 parts. Number 1, you're going to restate your 12-week goals. Next, you're going to break down the tactics that need to be completed and the day that they need to be completed on. And then you're going to identify when your strategic and buffer blocks will be for the week. We're going to talk about that more here in just a little bit. Okay, that's going to come down to time blocking. Your weekly plan should be in writing. This is going to be your roadmap to success. Okay, the little things don't fall on there, like your weekly plan is not going to include check email every day at 10 o'clock. That's your to-do list versus your weekly plan. The next thing is that you should attend a weekly accountability meeting, what we call a WAM. Okay, it's important that you have support as you work through your 12-week goals. So, remember before when we had somebody we shared that with, and we talked about maybe an accountability partner. Well, pair up with 2 or 3 other agents in the office who are also working the 12-week system, because peer support has been proven to be a powerful way to increase your degree of success. And then that gives you 2 or 3 people that you can meet with on a weekly meeting for that WAM. Okay, the WAM is going to be a short weekly meeting, usually held on Monday. You can, just so you guys know, you can do these 12-week goals with regards to your personal life as well. It could be like you and your significant other sitting down and putting together a plan for the week of what that looks like and how to get where you want to be in the next 3 years or 5 years. Okay, so it doesn't have to be all business related. This one happens to be, we're talking more business. Okay, so your WAM, short weekly meeting, should be held on Monday. You should complete your weekly plan first, and your WAM should last no longer than 30 minutes with the intention of fostering personal accountability. Okay, it's not your WAM peer, so it's not the other people in your WAMs group job to hold you accountable or dole out negative consequences. That's not their job. Your WAM agenda is going to include a report out of your results, so your actual to goal, your weekly execution score, which we'll talk about here in a minute, what's working, where you're struggling, and your action or commitment for the next week. In addition, we can talk about group challenges. You can get feedback and encouragement. And then we want to close up and identify our follow-ups. So anytime we have follow-ups. You may want to develop rules for your weekly WAM meetings. And as a member of a WAM, your job is to press in and support the other members. If someone isn't prepared, if they haven't done their weekly review, they don't have their weekly plan written out, you can ask them to step out. They can go get their numbers and then they can come back, right? If they're scoring poorly, ask them what is keeping them from following through and what they will change to move forward, right? We're not going to get down on them for scoring poorly. We're just going to ask them what's getting in the way and what they're going to change to move forward. Your job is to help each other hit the goals, and your intention is not to be friends. Okay, because sometimes with friends, we might shy away from asking the hard questions like, oh, what's keeping you from meeting those goals? What are you going to change to move forward? Well, I probably shouldn't have gone to happy hour with you on Friday, right? Like that got in the way of reaching my tactics. It might be hard to do that. So our goal is to not necessarily be friends. We're going to help each other hit our goals. The next tool for that process control would be a daily huddle. So it's a 5-minute stand-up meeting with your weekly accountability group. Each member will briefly report out on yesterday's accomplishments and today's intentions. It's going to be short, sweet, and to the point. If not in person, I would recommend doing it via Zoom. Okay, so we're going to have our top 2 to 3 people that we have a weekly WAM with. We shared our vision with them. They know our goals. Now we're going to meet with them for 30 minutes every Monday. Everybody kind of gets like 10 minutes to share and report out on your weekly score. Now, hold on, scrolling back up. We're going to report out on your results, your actual to goal, your weekly execution score, what's working, where you're struggling, and your commitments for the next week. Okay, everybody's going to report out. And then on a daily basis, you're going to check in with each person. You're going to go over what you accomplished yesterday and what your intentions are for today. 5 minutes. Okay, sometimes it might be nice to create a 12-week theme for your 12-week plan, a theme that is going to create emotional excitement and a connection with your plan. It should be in alignment and reinforce your priorities and goals. It should be motivating and help you maintain focus. Something like this, the theme for this 12 weeks is gratitude, service excellence, own it, face your fears. Something, again, that's going to create emotional excitement, a connection to the plan. It's going to be in alignment or reinforce your priorities and goals and be motivating to help you maintain focus. Okay, so that's weekly plan, your WHAM meetings, daily huddles, 12-week themes, and finally, plan to celebrate. Take time to identify something that you find motivating and inspiring, something that you can look forward to when you successfully execute your 12-week plan. If you've struggled through the plan, it may not have to be a big celebration. And on the flip side, if you had major breakthrough, you may want to take a full week off and celebrate your win. So remember, you want to reward the action, which is more important than the results, because we have control over the actions. We don't have control over the results. Okay, so celebrations may look different to each person. It may be a gift or reward. It could be time off with family. It could be a vacation. It's whatever is going to motivate you to get those daily and those weekly items done and help move you towards your goal. Any questions about process control? All right. Some more items that may prevent you from finding success is first, failing to plan weekly, right? You're never too busy. You will always need it. And you aren't better than it, right? You don't already know what to do. And you do need to be held accountable. So sitting down and completing that weekly plan ensures your success. Don't store it up here in your head, put it in writing on paper and have a weekly plan. Your weekly plan, again, should not be a to-do list. It should only contain the strategic tasks from your 12-week plan that are going to lead to the success of your 12-week goals. You can create separate to-do lists for the lower level activities that need to be done, but your weekly plan is the tactics that are going to move you forward. You don't want to be adding tactics. Okay, when we give ourselves permission to start adding tactics that are not part of our 12-week plan, oftentimes it causes us to get distracted by urgent activities that aren't necessarily strategic in helping us meet our goals. So remember that every week is different. So don't copy and paste from one week to the next. Spend time reviewing each week and setting up that week for success. And use the weekly plan as your guide each day. Keep it in front of you and reference it often. So I would personally, if it were me, I would print out my weekly plan and have it on my desk in front of me at all times or wherever I'm going to work. Maybe it's on a sticky so I can put it on my computer when I close it and take it someplace else if you have a laptop. But you want to keep it in front of you each and every day and continue to reference back to it to make sure you're accomplishing what needs to be done in order to meet your goals. Okay, next up in the disciplines is scorekeeping. Measurement drives execution, and in order to be able to gauge how we are doing, we need to track our progress. There are a few ways that you should be doing that. Number one is going to be your key matrix or your key measures, and that's going to be the mix of lead and lag indicators. Okay, so a lag indicator is the result, where the lead indicator is an early measurement to show progress towards the goal, right? So think of a lead indicator as the action. So if I had a sales goal of 6 homes sold, the number of homes sold to date would be the lag indicator. Whereas the number of doors knocked, the number of open houses held, the number of conversations had would be your lead indicators. I know if I'm not having conversations, and that's part of my weekly tactics, I'm probably not getting the results. So if my lead indicators not on par, then my lag's probably going to be missing as well. You want to just pick the top 1 to 3 lead and lag indicators for each goal you're working to achieve. And I recommend tracking them and posting them so that you and everyone else can see them. Nothing drives accountability like keeping it in front of us. Okay. So in addition to those key measures, those lead and lag indicators, you want to track how well you're completing your weekly tactics. So to do that, you're going to calculate an execution score. So if I had on my weekly plan this week, if I had 10 tactics that I needed to complete, and I only completed 8 of those weekly tactics, then you're going to figure out the percentage, right? Percentage of completion. So I'm going to take 8 completed, divide it by 10, and then we're going to multiply it by 100. That's going to give us 8. Okay, which is going to give us an 80%. So if I completed 8 out of 10 tasks, 8 divided by 10 is 0.8, multiplied by 100, that gives us 80%. Okay, I have a 80% execution score this week. You have control over your daily and weekly activities. We don't have control over the results. Okay, so by completing the activities, you should get the results that you're looking for. So we need to track those activities. We want to make sure that we're tracking and updating our metrics weekly. You should know where you are at in regards to your lead and lag indicators, and you should know your execution scores, right? Are you on pace to hit your 12-week goal? And then remember, we're also going to report out those numbers during our weekly accountability meetings. So by knowing our numbers, it allows us to know what we need to do to keep up the progress or what we need to change to get back on track. Okay, does this make sense to everybody? Execution effectiveness. Also, don't be afraid to confront what the numbers are telling you. If you're unwilling to acknowledge where you're at, then you can't make the changes necessary. So it's okay to admit that, gosh, I said I was going to make 10 phone calls a day, and I only did that once this week, right? Because then we know where we need to make those changes in order to move ourselves forward. And then remember, check in with your metrics weekly on that WHAM meeting. I already mentioned that, but that's paying attention. So scorekeeping, lead and lag indicators, track your percentage of execution, and make sure that we're paying attention to those and reporting them out in our weekly WHAM meeting. If you get in the habit of holding yourself accountable through the weekly execution routine, then you will surely have results from your 12-week goal because we're staying on top of making sure that we're doing what needs to be done in order to reach the end result. So your first step is to give yourself a score weekly for your execution effectiveness. Be honest, if you didn't complete all the tasks all the way, it's not done. If I had a task every day of calling 10 people, making 10 phone calls, and I made 8 phone calls one day and 9 phone calls one day and 0 phone calls one day and 3 and 10, I only did it once. Okay, I didn't do it almost twice. I did it once. I completed it once. Second, each week you complete your weekly plan. Something we didn't touch on previously is it should contain tactics due this week based on your 12-week goal plus any unfinished tasks from the previous week. So if we didn't finish something last week, we need to move it forward to this week on our weekly plan. We don't just forget about it and move on with life. Okay. Step 3 is going to be attend that weekly accountability meeting. Be sure to include successes, lessons learned, your scores, and what your plan is for this next week. Also, if you're not on track, you can let your WHAM partners know what you are committing to this week to help you get back on track. and update the group of any progress of prior commitments. Any questions about scorekeeping? All right, performance time. Using your time intentionally is the key to success. Oftentimes we're so buried in the daily activities, we believe that we don't have time for anything else. Okay, this leads us to deal with the urgent. And oftentimes we don't make time for the important. Just because something's urgent, just because somebody's screaming at us doesn't make it important. So let's cover a few constructive beliefs that we should adopt when it comes to our calendar. The number one thing is that your time is valuable as valuable as the time of others. Okay, as realtors, we often throw out our calendar the second a client calls to go see properties or a deal starts to catch fire. And you forget that if you don't complete the activities on your calendar, then we may save this deal, but that our business is going to suffer over time. So ultimately, what you're doing is you're valuing your client's time over your own. So in order to achieve breakthrough, you need to see your time as important as that of your clients. Okay, so that's number one. In addition, we believe that we can get it all done. If we work fast enough, hard enough, or long enough, we can do it all. And the reality is that we cannot get it all done. Studies show that the average professional in America often has 40 hours of unfinished work on their desk. Okay, 40 hours of unfinished work sitting around on your desk or your to-do list. So it's okay to admit that you can't get it all done, which means that we need to shift how we do things, and we need to prioritize the strategic but less urgent work required to create our business breakthrough, thus allowing us to fulfill our vision. Next, we need to embrace the idea that we should prioritize high priority, money-making, results-generating activity first. Okay, this is why we always talk about doing lead generation in the morning and not putting it off. Because oftentimes if we put it off to the afternoon or we don't schedule it to the afternoon, it gets swallowed up with those urgent tasks that aren't going to grow our business. And finally, we need to understand that breakthrough in our business requires breakout from our old systems. We need a profound change in the way that we work for it to show up in our results. Breakthrough requires that we need to be willing to change the way that we spend our time. So is everybody on here ready for breakthrough? We're going to talk about performance time. Okay. I'm going to imagine that everybody raised their hands. We've talked about how to shift to the 12-week year, how to create those 12-week goals and how to break that into a 12-week plan, and then how to break that down into daily activities. So we're adopting new beliefs when it comes to our goals. And now we need to adopt new beliefs as it applies to how we're going to implement that onto our calendars. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to create a model work week using what is called performance time. And in case you guys want to know, this all comes from, there's a book called The 12-Week Year. And then there's like a 12-week year workbook. So in case you want to study up more on all this, or you think I'm just making stuff up, it's all in the book. It's by Brian Morgan, I believe is the main author, but this is the field guide. Anyways, all right. So performance time. We're going to introduce 3 time blocks to your calendar. They're called strategic, buffer, and breakout. Strategic blocks are going to be 3-hour blocks of time that should be scheduled at least 1 time per week. You're not going to break it up into smaller chunks. The idea with the strategic block is you're going to have 3 hours of uninterrupted time. You're going to turn off your phone, turn off your notifications, close the door. You're going to focus. This time is going to be spent doing the most important activities to drive you forward towards your goals. Some activities that you might do during the strategic block would be review progress on the 12-week year, identify performance breakdowns and causes, and determine strategies to overcome. And you're going to work the key plan tactics. It's best to put this strategic block early in the week. Okay, so strategic block, 3-hour time period, not broken up into hours, 3-hour block. We're going to turn off all of our notifications. We're going to turn off our phone. We're going to shut the door, and we're going to plug away on identifying performance breakdowns, reviewing our progress, review the causes of those performance breakdowns, and determining strategies to overcome, as well as working on those key plan tactics that we identified earlier on. Okay, the next thing that we're going to add to our calendar is 30 to 60-minute buffer blocks. Okay, you're going to put those on your calendar 1 to 2 times per day. This is where we're going to take care of the urgent but less important things that need to get done. Things like emails, return phone calls, having short meetings, other administrative tasks that require your attention, putting out fires. As realtors, I would probably recommend that you have at least 2 30-minute buffer blocks on your calendar per day. However, you may want one 30-minute one in the morning and one 60-minute one in the afternoon, something to that effect. Okay, so that's a daily buffer block, 1 to 2 per day, 30 to 60 minutes. And finally, we're going to add breakout blocks to our calendar. And you're like, Amy, what are breakout blocks? Those sound exciting. They are. They're going to be 3 hours in length inside of a normal work week. And that's your mini vacation time. It's a chance to recharge and refresh. Maybe it's to get a massage. Maybe you're going to leave at noon one day to go play golf. For me, it'd be going horseback riding. They're going to help to manage your stress and maintain balance. Okay, so probably a couple buffer blocks, at least 1 buffer block per week. 3-hour time period that's focused on you. Okay, so strategic blocks, buffer blocks, breakout blocks. Okay. Before you schedule those breakout blocks, though, schedule the other 2 first. So you're going to do your strategic blocks, and then your buffer blocks, and then your breakout blocks. And then in addition to those 3 blocks, when you determine your ideal week, you're going to add in other blocks to your calendar for important activities like appointment time slots, showing homes, and leave some white space for executing tactics that are not included in your strategic block. Okay, so it's okay to have blank space in your calendar. Questions about the performance time? Okay.
No.
Fabulous. Okay, so imagine what your business looks like in 12 weeks. Are you growing in effectiveness of executing your tactics? Is your business growing? Are you gaining confidence? Are you enjoying that celebration that you planned? Right? And again, that celebration, it might be big, it might be small, it might be less. If I can just attain 80% effectiveness rating every week in this 12-week year, then I get to go on a day to Monterey and spend the day at the beach. Who knows what it is, right? So whatever that is, plan time for celebration. Once you've completed your 12 weeks, it's now time for you to plan your next 12-week year. You're going to continue the momentum, continue gaining ground in your business, continue gaining ground in your life. So at the end of your 12 weeks, you're going to schedule a 2-hour time block on your calendar for review and planning. The way that's going to start is you're going to start with an in-depth review of the last 12 weeks. How close did you come to hitting your goal? If you met or exceeded the goal, you will give yourself 100%. If you got 80%, then that's your score, right? If our goal was 6 transactions and we closed 5 transactions, we would go 5 divided by 6 is 83%. Okay. Because our goals are smart and measurable, it makes it really easy to know what the finish line looked like. And because we're tracking our results as we go, we know how close we got. So give yourself a score. Next, you're going to look at your weekly execution scores. Ideally, you're going to break those down by goal. And then by week, instead of looking at all the tactics for all the goals together. Okay. Look at them weekly, and then you're going to get the average for the 12-week period. You're going to add up all the percentages for each week, divide it by 12. That gives you the average. Okay. In case you're not good at math, that's all it takes. We take each week, add it up, divide it by 12. Then we're going to evaluate what insights can we draw, what worked, what didn't work. If you didn't have an 80% or higher on your execution score, what can you do differently to achieve that standard moving forward? In addition to achieving success in our goals, we want to evaluate how we are doing in the 6 key life areas. So we want to rate each area on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being poor and 10 being amazing. So those areas are spiritual, spouse or key relationships, family, business, personal, and physical. Okay, spiritual, key relationships, or that spouse relationship, family, business, personal, and physical. Rate 1 to 10, with 1 being poor and 10 being amazing. There's those areas, right? What areas were you pleased with? What areas would you like to improve over the next 12 weeks, right? Where do we want to see improvement? Because our 12-week goals aren't just about business. It's also about getting to that end goal, that vision, and improving all the key areas of our life. Next, you're going to take some time to review and score yourself on the disciplines of success that we've implemented. On a scale of 1 to 10, how did you do with creating your vision and staying connected to it on a daily and weekly basis? On a scale of 1 to 10, how did we do with creating and implementing the 12-week plan? On a scale of 1 to 10, how did we do using the weekly plan, scoring ourselves weekly, and attending a WAM? How did we do following performance time? How did we do with our time blocks? How did we do with tracking our key measurements, right? What disciplines will we commit to leveraging more effective over the next 12 weeks? Finally, you're going to take time to review your breakthroughs. You're going to describe significant accomplishments during your 12-week year. What thinking do we need to change to double our results over the next 12 weeks? What new actions do we need to take on in the next 12 weeks to achieve breakthrough? Okay, review and planning. 2 weeks to review, or 2 weeks, 2 hours to review and plan. Most people find it hard to be successful in business because their comfort becomes more important than success. Change is uncomfortable. Being honest with ourselves, being honest with our results can be a little bit painful as we're doing our weekly execution scores and you're like, man, I got a 47% this week on my weekly execution, right? That's going to be a little bit painful. And the trick is going to be not to shy away from the pain, but to lean into it to help it to move ourselves forward. Right? That's going to cause you not just to grow your business, but you're going to grow and become a better person as well. Also, keep in mind that each week equals a month of time in your 12-week year. So you need to make the most out of each and every day and each and every week. At the end of each week, spend time reviewing your lead and lag indicators and review that execution score. If your execution score is below that 80%, or if you're not on target with your leading and lag indicators, address the gaps, review your performance breakdown, and make those commitments for the upcoming week. But do me a favor, as we work through this, know it's going to take time, okay? And don't quit because you aren't scoring well. It's a process. Again, it's going to take time to get the hang of the system and understand the process. So just hang in there. Ask for help, get support. I'm always there for you guys. The weekly accountability meeting is going to be your safe space. Have those hard conversations with each other, but do it with support. Okay, so keep plugging. The 13th week. Okay, I don't know about if you did the math, but 12 weeks times 4, that's only 48 weeks, okay, out of the year. So that gives us 4 extra weeks. So at the end of each 12-week year, you're going to do what you do at the end of the regular year. You're going to take a break. Woohoo! So week number 13 is going to be your vacation week. Time to take a trip, time for renewal, a time to relax, and use this week to complete your next 12-week year plan so that you're ready to hit the ground running that next week. Okay, that doesn't mean that you don't call your clients back on that 13th week, but it's not where we're heavily executing tactics. We're evaluating where we were at. We evaluate how we did, and we take time to plan the next 12 weeks. Okay, that way when the next week comes, Monday, we're hitting the ground, ready to execute those weekly tactics. All right, thoughts, comments, questions? What do you guys think of this?
I think it's a good plan to break it down to 12 weeks instead of 12 months.
Yeah, a little less overwhelming.
I think this fits exactly into where I've been gearing up towards.
Absolutely.
I just looked on Amazon for that book,
Yeah,
and there's a white covered one, and then there's the red covered one that's a field guide. Do you know the
Yes.
difference between those two?
yeah. So the one is the book that has all of the plans and everything laid out, like the theories behind it, how to execute it appropriately. It's got all the meat. The field guide is this one. So I've got them both. And the field guide gives you kind of action steps for each thing. So it walks you through what the 12-week year is, the principles, the disciplines, and then it's going to like help you create, like it's got your be, do, have list for your vision in there. So it's going to walk you through each step and show you how to create your long-term vision and your 3-year personal vision. So it's kind of like a journal or like a step guide where you can kind of follow it step by step to work through your first 12 weeks.
Okay, so if I got the journal, the red one, I wouldn't need to buy the white one.
No, you'd probably be able to pick up enough from it. Although I referenced both of them as I worked through the material for this class. So I actually have the 12-week year book on Audible, and then I have the written 12-week field guide.
Okay.
Yep. Fabulous. Anything else before we wrap up for today? All right, fabulous. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. As always, if you need anything, feel free to reach out, and I will see you tomorrow, Tuesday, for Rev Up at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Absolutely.